Hello and welcome to Green Pass Gaming's Thursday midweek catch up. I'm your host Flap, and we have 3/4 of the GPG crew with us tonight. Hello, GPG crew.
Oh,
You're
I am waving.
yeah.
Can't see it. Yeah.
You're probably noticing that the fourth quarter or the fourth corner of the GPG crew is missing tonight, and huge congratulations to Luke. He tied the knot with his fiance. Husband and wife now, so congratulations to him. I think he's actually in the UK as we speak. But yes, fantastic news and congratulations to Luke. Hopefully he'll be back on next week's show. I don't think we're going to be able to bring you a show this Sunday, but we'll see what we can do. We've got more than enough to be discussing this week and tonight. And we'll also, if you want to hang around and watch the Hogwarts Legacy PlayStation Showcase. We'll be doing a live reaction today on the show, tech allowing. Hopefully I can get it all working. Fantastic show lined up. So let's kick straight off. And perhaps we'll come to you first, Paxley. And we haven't done this for a little while. What we might do is actually kind of discuss what we've been playing and stuff, really, because I know that you've been playing Elden Ring because I've been playing it with you. But also I know you've been playing Tunic. So... yeah,
it's your background for the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a weird one because for the longest, because they said that, yes, it's coming out on Tunic's coming out on the 16th of March. I tried to booted up the Xbox yesterday morning in the hopes of seeing the store page be there and like ready to buy kind of thing. And there was nothing. There was nothing on their Twitter page. They just kept saying, wait till tomorrow. The game's dropping tomorrow. There was no price, no release time or things like that. So I know a lot of people in the Twitter sphere on that very particular set of tweets from them. Sorry, had constantly more and more chat going on, and then I saw some comments about, oh, it's usually releasing 1 p.m. EST, so it'll be about 5 p.m. I double checked on the Steam website, and it said the same thing, releasing in like an hour or something. This was like 4 o'clock. Okay, it's coming out at 5, and then lo and behold, about the same time, that's when I saw the news post start to come out to say, oh, guess what? It's coming to Game Pass. And it was like, oh, fantastic. So as soon as I saw that, I kind of gasped in joy and then ran to the Xbox and downloaded it.
That saved you 15 quid then.
25.
25?
Well, 25.
Really?
On Steam, it's 25 quid, yeah.
Wow. I assumed it was going to be about 15 quid.
I thought that as well. I mean,
it's only 3 gigabytes.
I don't know. I know. Well, you can't really go by file size anymore, can you? So.
No, it's 7 quid, more than £7 a gig. Wow.
But no, I've been really enjoying it. I know a lot of people had a few kind of ums and ahs about the demo because it didn't necessarily give you much, I guess. But I think now I've played the full one, really enjoying it. I can kind of see why they didn't say too much, and they kind of, or rather, they said about in terms of the demo that. Yeah, it's nothing like the demo. This is just like a sneak peek kind of thing, and then I can 100% see why now. And I really love how the game kind of, I say guides you through the game, but it guides you by not guiding you. But obviously, you go through the game finding pages of the in-game instruction manual.
Yes,
and
you piece them
almost
together.
like an old, like a late 90s like player's guide type thing. And I think the way that's done, like obviously the artwork is fantastic as well, but just the process of doing it and actually having to read I know it's all kind of in fake in-game text, but there's like snippets of English in certain locations next to certain icons, and it's like it's just enough and just small enough that you have to look at it and go, what is that? And then and you kind of click it and it all goes together, and it's like, oh man, this is really cool. And no, I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, that's cool. So if you put Elden Ring down then for the time, how are you going to split your time between those two?
I think. Well, it's interesting because Tunic kind of has some Dark Souls vibes.
You know what? I thought that. I thought exactly that. Yep.
Like the combat isn't. I mean, at the very beginning of the game, it's you kind of partially breeze through it, even with the stick. But then, as soon as you get to some of the bigger enemies, like I saw a few reviews that all said they didn't quite call it a con, but it was written as if it was a negative about how the attack range of your character is quite small, so you have to get up close and personal almost all of the time, which means you have to rely on your dodging. And again, it's so Dark Souls like because you have to manage your stamina. If your stamina gets to 0, then you're double likely. You take double damage on a hit. yeah, and things like that.
And
you
you
can't
also
run
you,
or
you also
jump.
have to go to kind of the sort of little fire places, don't you, and kind of initiate
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
and that's where you spawn
They
back.
respawn enemies
Yeah,
and
And it's
stuff
where the
as
whole
well.
world resets. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
So
very
I've really
Souls-like.
enjoyed that aspect.
Mm.
Sorry, as I'm playing it, like with Elden Ring, and when I was playing a bit of Dark Souls a couple of weeks before, I have found myself like managing when I do heal, because obviously if you go through, I know it's obviously nowhere near as big and as complicated as something like Elden Ring, but the concepts are still there, aren't they? And that, you know, you go through an area, you clear it out, you go to a different room, you may find a secret entrance or a secret room somewhere with another treasure chest or a path which takes you to a different location. But then if you rest, and you know that if you come back, you've got to fight everyone again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a massive management game. But no, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm kind of gotten to a point now where I'll say a bit further into it. How much have you guys done out of interest? Have you played much of it yet?
Tunic, I've put about half an hour
Yeah.
in, if that. But it was enough for me to think this is a Souls-like game.
Are you the same, Scott? Have you only put a bit of time in, or a couple of hours?
I put about an hour in last night, but I think that was enough to give me a taste of like this is a game I'm going to enjoy. It was one of my most anticipated games, not just indie games, just games from when it was revealed.
Yeah.
And then as you mentioned, Pucks, like a few people were not too crazy about the demo, which really dampened my expectations a little bit. So I went into it still having a little bit of excitement, but very cautiously optimistic. And playing the first hour, I was like, no, I'm actually really going to enjoy this game. I kind of got similar, not obviously the same, but similar vibes to sort of what I got with Death's Door. It's got a lot of similarities, similar point of view. You're a fox instead of a bird. You got both of you've got a sword. There's a lot of dodging, a lot of attacking. Some of the enemies, despite its cute appearance, I mean, you can see the background that you've got there. It's got a very cute aesthetic, but some of those enemies,
You get your ass
when you
kicked.
see them for the first time, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you've, I assume you have, Pucks. Don't know if you've met the spiders yet.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Those spiders were a little bit
kick
of a
your ass a little
bastard when I
bit.
first came across them. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The one thing that I haven't quite done yet, I've done the first boss, I think, Pucks, or what is going to be the first boss.
Is that the Guardian?
The God, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I think you have to do something with your sword. I'm obviously trying to dance around it a little bit because it's fairly early, but you have to do something with your sword afterwards. I've not done that yet because I couldn't find the route to get there, because it's got an interesting level design where there's a lot of like hidden paths. So behind the boss you can go up some stairs.
Behind the boss you go up some stairs. You're talking about ringing the bell?
Yeah, well, I was trying to say ring the bell, but without saying ring the bell.
No, I'd argue that's not much of a spoiler.
I guess not.
That's it. I'm done now. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
I'll delete it.
I tried, Fab. I tried. I've not done that yet because I didn't realize at first that there was a path up to the bell, because the perspective doesn't make it obvious that there's a path necessarily back then. There's a few instances of that actually where there's like a lot of hidden just little routes and paths in certain areas of the level. That's really clever. So I'm going to be jumping back into it tonight. Really looking forward to it.
Was we kind of surprised by the Metacritic scores? Because I think they're a lot higher. I think was it 87? Perhaps we can just quickly Google it. It was 87 when
9 out of 10s.
I was quite surprised by that, because like you say, I mean, I'd played the demo. It was okay. Like I say, graphically really cute. It was kind of okay, really. So like I think Luke mentioned on Twitter as well, to see these high scores rolling, it's like blimey. And then
Luke is similar. Yeah, I think Luke is similar to Scott and I, and that we were following it for a long time, really hyped for it. Played the demo. It was so limited in what it showed you. It was like, is it as good as what I wanted it to be? And then now that it's come out, yes, it's on Game Pass, it's free, whatever, and it's kind of exceeded my original expectations. Like in such a massive way. Like it's completely turned me around from being. But then I saw some of these scores just before I started playing as well, like 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, whatever it was. Yeah. That would have been a better mark, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, all these like really good scores, and then obviously there's like some of the trailer footage in that. But then I also like There's
I'll
so
just
many.
interrupt there, Pucks.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we may have lost video.
Oh no, I think we're back.
Oh, are we back? There
Yeah,
we are.
sorry.
Apologies. I just see a few comments in chat and my feed had gone down there. Sorry to interrupt, Pucks.
Pucks,
Oh,
that,
that's all
that
right.
was the
What
best thing you've ever said ever, and no one heard it.
What happened? Did you press the wrong button or something?
I was typing, and I think I must have had the OBS window selected rather than the chat window,
right.
and I think spacebar does the whole stop-start thing, which is quite frustrating, as you can imagine.
Nah, fair enough.
Anyway,
yeah.
apologies. Yes.
Where was I?
Actually, sorry, while we're on the chat, just before we do, Puck, sorry, we might as well just bring in
Yeah,
the chat.
go
We
for it.
haven't really gone to them. Thank you, chat, for being here. We've got BMG, Stubbs, Pyro, Darren, Judzilla's here, Tukungula. Thank you guys for being here. If there's anyone I missed, I do apologise. And yes, Stubbs, I did press the wrong button. Absolutely. OBS is an absolute bloody nightmare. I'll tell you, OBS is such a fantastic piece of software, but it's so intricate that it doesn't take much for it to go wrong, as I have just expertly demonstrated. So,
Doesn't
sorry,
bode
Bugs.
well for later on, Flap.
Well,
well, we need to get a little bit more.
That's why I
technical.
said, yeah, exactly. That's why I said, tech allowing, we should hopefully be able to live stream the Hogwarts Legacy state of play, just so we can see. It's a multi-platform game. Obviously, Sony are showcasing it as part of their state of play. So I'm very interested to see this, but perhaps we'll come on to that a little bit later. Puxley, sorry, you were talking Tunic. You've forgotten now,
was.
yeah?
Well, I can't remember
I
what
think you
kind
were
of...
talking about the beach. You basically
Yes,
just
I got
land
it.
on the beach and it kind of opens up.
Because a lot of again, we mentioned that it's kind of reminiscent to Dark Souls, and of course, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's also kind of Legend of Zelda-like as well." But then the more interesting part of that is that they took the one they're referencing is the very first original Legend of Zelda on the NES, where the game just kind of turns on, throws you into this massive world in comparison to everything else that was on the market at the time, I guess. But the fact that you're just kind of lumped somewhere, you're not told anything, you just walk and move and see what happens. And I found myself, the game doesn't necessarily, outside of not having the sword straight away and things like that, or a shield, the game doesn't not lock you out of most of the mechanics in the game, I've noticed. And it's going through, finding pages and reading that in-game instruction book, and it kind of says, "Oh, do this for." I don't know. I don't want to say anything because it will spoil it, and you have to discover it yourself to get the kind of real enjoyment out of it. But what I do
found
like
that
is
really interesting, Pucks, the whole discovering the manual as you go.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting concept that, I don't think I've seen in a game.
Well,
No,
because
I don't think
you're
I've
kind
at
of
all. Not
discovering
to this
pages of the
magnitude.
booklet as you're progressing through, and it's just an interesting way to provide a tutorial in a way. Isn't it?
All games kind of open up their kind of controller layout and stuff kind of over the course of the opening level, I guess. But the way Tunic does it is such a unique idea. Like you say, you just find this page, you think, oh, right, B does that, or A does this, and LB does that. Do you know what I mean? It's quite a clever way of sort of progressing it.
Again, it's hard to say anything now about spoiling it, but one thing I would like to say is that the later pages you discover also tell you other things about the world, and you kind of start to understand the story, and it's all, and even solving puzzles or knowing how to get past certain things, there'll be a small part on a certain page of a book that, of a page, that you've just collected. And what's interesting is that the fact, make sure you double check the other side of the page.
Yeah.
Which sounds stupid, but it's quite easy to think, oh, it's a game. It's just telling me the thing I've picked up. It's like, oh, no, make sure you turn it over to see if there's anything on the back. And I've even gotten to points where some pages have it's one big page over two pages, that makes sense. So if you only have half of or one of the two pages which make a full picture, then you don't have all the information yet. And I've got some snippets of those as well, which is interesting.
Yeah,
and
they're numbered, aren't they?
And you look at certain things that say, oh, look at page, 29, for example. And they go, oh, shit, I haven't got 29 yet. So that's clearly something for later. So it's really nice on how it's done. I suppose a slight tip for you guys as well is that you may come up across a future boss, which you'll look at and think, I've got no chance of this. And I think the short reality is that you don't unless you're really good at the game. But the game opens up there's a point where the game opens up more. So it may feel like it naturally leads you to one way, but it's not linear. So you can go back and find other stuff to do and level up or whatever.
Because this is just a 3 gigabyte indie game version of bloody Dark Souls, isn't it? Really, it really is.
Yeah.
Because you do that in Dark Souls, you think, oh my god, look at the size of that. What the hell is that? And then you don't have to touch it for, particularly in obviously Elden Ring because it's open world. But wow,
even this one though, it doesn't have a map, does it? Or maybe you discover one. I don't have a map. at least as
Okay.
it stands. So yeah, you're kind of discovering the world as you go, and it's got such an interesting, not just art style, but the music is also
Yeah.
in a way very relaxing. And then it's almost in contrast to the combat because it's like a really nice chilled out soundtrack, and then like a spider will lunge at you from like 10 meters away and take off half your health. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to playing a bit more. It's interesting though because I wasn't expecting it to be so Dark Souls ish, and I purposely wasn't going to play Elden Ring after completing Dark Souls this past week, and then I've jumped into Tunic, and lo and behold, it's similar in a lot of ways. But it's just such a charming little game. Yeah, are you going to be jumping in for a bit more, Flap? Do you think?
I
Did the first
will.
half hour you played
Yeah,
hook you enough?
I'm just hooked on Elden Ring. I've put 75 hours into Elden Ring. I just don't want to
Wow.
lose. I just don't want to lose the momentum while I've got it. I'm level 150 at the moment, so I'm kind of going through it, and I'm
Holy shit!
just finding everything that there is to be found. To be honest, because I don't think I want to play it through a second time. So I'm just kind of scouring the landscape for just all of the trinkets and bits and bobs,
Yeah.
and just kind of upgrading.
Speaking of Elden Ring, though, have you read that they have released patch
Yes.
1.0.3 today?
It's a 5 gig
Which
one. Yeah, they've nerfed a few things as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I think one
just-
thing it was very brief with one point they made, which was they adjusted enemy visuals and behavior. So I'm wondering if that was have they fixed quote unquote like
No, they haven't.
easy rune? Oh, they haven't fixed
No.
rune farming spots. Okay, cool.
What they have done is they've nerfed the mimic ashes though, so your mimic isn't quite as powerful. But
I read this. It's
Yeah.
man.
It's interesting. Maybe like not just to focus on Elden Ring, because I appreciate like a lot of people are talking about Elden Ring, and we spoke about about it a lot. But how do you guys feel about like balance patches for single player games? Because from what I've read, they've nerfed some of the maybe the magic elements within this. I remember playing. Did you guys play Outriders?
a bit.
A tiny bit, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not single player, it's co-op, but obviously it's PvE. And the developers took a lot of flack because they nerfed a few things to try and balance it out. So rather than buffing things that weren't as good, they nerfed the things that were good. Which I find such an interesting I guess just thing to do for a game. Balance patches are so weird for single player games.
Well, I think
it depends on the intent. Go on, sorry.
Well, I think From Software has a prestige to uphold, so it's not like it's monetized in any way. So it's not like they're trying to, level the playing field because it's unfair and pay to win and things like that. I just think they've got a sort of a reputation to uphold as being a difficult game, and they don't want people cheesing it too easily, because I think that's bad optics for the game, if that makes sense. Hence, they're not being kind of an easy mode, I suppose. Does that make sense?
I was basically going to say the same thing with different words, effectively, in that they probably want the game. In that they probably, in my view, they want the game to have a certain level of challenge at certain points. But I guess in being an open world game, again, we've kind of briefly mentioned it already, but there are so many videos out there in the wild already about, this is the best place to get tens of thousands of runes a second or whatever it is, and you can level up 50 levels in about 10 minutes or whatever the claim is. But I have seen a lot of, because I flick through TikTok, admittedly, I do that. But there's a lot of Elden Ring videos on there of people being OP. And I think it was in the patch notes as well, but there is a weapon I've heard of called the Sword of Night and Flame or something like that. But I think it's actually like a mage type weapon. It shoots like a massive mage projectile beam across a massive landscape, and big bosses, like end game bosses, which are meant to be ridiculously hard, are being they kind of instantly die kind of thing. And I can imagine, even if you want a weapon to be powerful, that's not just powerful, that is OP in my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I can understand. Again, I suppose similar to what I'm rambling now, but I don't think it's a bad thing, to answer your question, Scott. Given how they want the game to be played, but then I suppose there's also that layer of challenge because the fact it is open world and you obviously can't account for every edge case.
Yeah, but I guess the way that I'm looking at it is flat. How many hours did you say you put in so far? 75. So you could be in a position now where you're 75 hours into this game. You could have had your entire build developed around this one weapon, and then they could just come in and go poof, that's nerfed. And it's kind of, obviously it's not going to stop you from playing necessarily, but it's going to either make the game more difficult for you for no reason other than they decided to nerf the weapon, or it's going to have to make you approach the game with a different build or go and find a new weapon, something like that. Which I just find it, I find it unbelievably just odd. If you want people to, I don't know. I just find it a little strange.
Do you think that sorry, even in the case where players are one-shotting anything and everything they come across, because there's surely no challenge in that at that point. You're just kind of walking through it, which I imagine is probably not the intended experience.
Yeah, but those players are probably
that's player choice, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean those players have been rune farming as well. I mean there isn't a single weapon in the game that you can pick up and just one-shot people. You have to, people say there isn't an easy mode in Elden Ring and the Souls games. There kind of is. You've just got to earn it. You've just got to farm for leveling up, basically, haven't you? That's kind of how you do it, I suppose. But
yeah, because I'd say, Pucks, games, this counts for any game, you can almost make it as difficult or as easy for yourself. Even going back to the days of things like game genies and cheat codes, if they're in the game, if you want to use them, you use them. You don't have to. So, like, if you want to cheese a game, cheese it. The game's bloody difficult. These games cheese you. Some of these bosses in Souls games, as I've come to discover playing Dark Souls 3, are just pure bullshit sometimes. So, if you want to cheese the game, then knock yourself out.
Yeah,
I just find it strange that, they made the decision to have this weapon and now they've decided, too many people are maybe using this weapon and are creating clips that are making bosses seem easy, that we need to nerf it. If you want to cheese the game, you're just going to change that weapon to a different weapon that makes it easy, or rune farm, or whatever it is.
Another thing to mention, I guess, is that most of the patch notes weren't just nerfs. They also did mention that they are bringing in new NPCs and or giving current NPCs extended quest lines. Yeah. So maybe these are naturally, I would imagine, will lead to new boss encounters.
They've also fixed a few issues as well. There's a few swords that weren't tracking with the stats properly that have now been fixed. So although they've nerfed some, they've actually made others more powerful, or as powerful as they should have been in the first place, I guess. So
I've seen. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Wow. Elden Ring yet again. I think the chat's getting bored with Elden Ring, to be honest.
Yeah. I did try to make it more generic by bringing up Outriders of all bloody games.
Yeah.
I just find it like just an interesting thing. I fair enough buff things to try and balance them out, but I just find the concept of nerfing things in a single player or a PvE experience just bizarre. I don't get it at all personally, but hey ho.
Well, let's get into the meat and bones of this particular show. Then it's we kind of did Tunic first, but I was expecting us to do Perfect Dark first, but perhaps we've saved that for the second half of this part of the show. So yeah, let's get cracking straight into the Perfect Dark side of things. And Scott, perhaps we'll come to you first. Some bad optics, shall we say? Floating around on the internet, and there's been lots of speculation. There's been, Jez Corden's has been mentioning a few things, and VGC's done an interview with Daryl Gallagher, and lots of stuff. Help us unpick it, Scott. Where do we start?
Where do we start, indeed? So, I guess to start, the article that was released by Andy Robertson over at VGC essentially was just highlighting what is, for lack of a better term, a mass exodus of staff from the initiative over the past 6 to 12 months, which, staff changes and our staff being overturned isn't necessarily, a bad thing. I think what's striking about the initiative is the volume, especially as a percentage. It's essentially more than 50% of the original staff now. Obviously, this is a small studio. I think of around the original 70, like maybe 35 to 40 of them have left. We're not talking hundreds having left, but a significant portion of their staff, which were all, not all of them, sorry, in some cases were significant hires for Xbox and the initiative have since moved on in a relatively short period of time. You know, this is the initiative that was started in 2018. They're yet to ship again. We know they're working on Perfect Dark. They partner with Crystal Dynamics. And I think ultimately, from my perspective, you know, we were talking in the green room, Flap. I think it's been blown out of proportion ever so slightly, but ultimately the optics aren't great
No.
for Xbox because they never said it. I know it was not PS. I know it was recruiter speak, but you know, this is the quadruple A studio,
Yeah.
the quadruple A studio, and they've got nothing to show for it just yet, except for one CG trailer. And unfortunately for them, an article that is showing that their staff are leaving en masse in a lot of cases. And that's off the back of the Crystal Dynamics partnership that was announced last year. That was met with bemusement, I would think it's fair to say. I think people found that a little unusual, both from the initiative's perspective, but also from Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics perspective. So it's interesting because 4 years later, nothing to show for it. The game's likely years away. Is this going to be a 7-year development cycle? You know, who's developing it now? Is it the initiative? Is it Crystal Dynamics?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of the question. But yeah, what's your take on it, Flap, out of interest?
Well, again, we was mentioning in the green room. I think perhaps Xbox have gone a little over the top with promoting this in the first place, and particularly calling it, you know, the quadruple A, and that whole aspect of it. You know, I know Perfect Dark has a following, but for me, it's not an IP that sets me on fire. I can't say I'm climbing up the walls of excitement or anticipation for it. I've got to be honest, and you know. I didn't play it when it first came out, and I've gone back to it since, and it's not a very good game at all. I mean, all of the mechanics are extremely janky, as you would expect from 2 or 3, 4 generations ago. So I'm not really massively excited for it anyway, to be honest. And like I say, Xbox were creating a lot of hype around it. Like I say, the whole quadruple A moniker that they were kind of giving it, and it got people really excited. And to be honest, at the time we were all buzzing about the studios, and I think that there has been some comments thrown Microsoft's way, particularly perhaps from the PlayStation camp, that Microsoft just go out and buy all of these studios. Sorry. So this was an attempt to actually make one from the ground up, and I think there was kind of a lot riding on it in lots of ways, particularly with the IP that they'd chosen. And like you say, it's just bad optics. It's a strange sort of situation they find themselves in, and I've got to be honest, I'm no more or less excited now than I was before. I wasn't particularly excited for it. It'd be interesting to see what happens next, because I was under the impression we may hear a little bit more information about it this year at some point from Microsoft, but perhaps we won't. Pux, where are you with Perfect Dark?
Well, in terms of the RP in general, I kind of sit with you in a way. I never really played it back in the day, and I'm aware that it was it started off as an Xbox title, didn't it? It wasn't an N64 title, no?
No, it's an N64. Yeah, so
it was as well.
Essentially,
Right, okay.
If I remember correctly, it was essentially the sequel to GoldenEye. If I remember correctly, wasn't it?
Because I'm aware the mechanics are basically exactly the same as GoldenEye.
Yeah, so I think obviously they didn't have the James Bond license essentially to make a second 007 game, and I think, chat, please correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, it was a long time ago. I was a lot younger then, but if I remember rightly, it was essentially the kind of a sequel to GoldenEye.
No, fair enough. But yeah, I sit in that camp of I kind of went back to play a bit of it. I think back in the very early 360 days when it got re-released multiple times back then. And yeah, it didn't really take my fancy. But again, I think we're talking about a time when controls for first and third person shooters are becoming, at that point in time at least, are becoming more refined and corrected and adjusted and normalized. Whereas, Perfect Dark at the time didn't have that. And obviously it's catering for the N64 initially, which obviously didn't have a second analog stick. So the whole... you look left and right and the pointer kind of goes left and right with you, and you have to hold the Z button to then stop and aim somewhere on the screen. I mean, I'm sure back then it felt innovative, but now it just feels janky and old. And it did for me back then when I played it years ago. So no, it's not an IP that I really care about. But then I can say the same thing about things like Dark Souls. Not to go back to that, but that was also an IP I never cared about until a game like Elden Ring came along, and I've, at least in this particular game, fallen in love with the concept. So maybe a new Perfect Dark with updated controls, mechanics, etc., to modern standards will maybe pull me in. But one of
Did
the things
either of you pay Perfect Dark Zero for the 360 launch title?
that may have been the one I was talking about, but I don't remember liking it too much.
Yeah. So I mean, that one at least was sort of a more modern take on Perfect Dark. So obviously it had twin stick shooting. Obviously it was a 360 game. It wasn't particularly well received, to be perfectly honest. I personally liked it more than most. I think I played a fair bit of it at launch. That and Cameo, for those who remember Cameo from back then.
Yeah.
I quite liked it, but I'm with you, Pucks. I wasn't a big fan of the original because, well, I just don't think shooters work particularly well back then. The N64 controller was horrific, in my opinion. So, as much as people are nostalgic for that, no one can tell me that was a good bloody controller. But Perfect Dark Zero was okay. But Flap, you raise an interesting point, because is this an IP that's got better with, like, the longer it's been dormant? You know, the longer that there hasn't been a game, is nostalgia.
Rose-tinted glasses,
where people are looking back and thinking, this is kind of, this isn't Zelda, this isn't Mario, this isn't Halo or Sonic. You know, is it a game where the longer it's sort of been it's gone without having a new entry in this franchise, or people looking back on it more and more fondly? If they went back and played it, it's not maybe as good as one.
To be honest, we've had a generation, a whole new swathe of people come into gaming since then that just don't even know what Perfect Dark is. So to try and build that kind of hype around it, it just seems strange to me. And like I say, it was never a massive game in the first place. So I don't know. It's a peculiar move from Microsoft, I think. I mean, they had plenty of other IPs they could have probably picked on to create, and to land on Perfect Dark seems an odd one to me. I got a quote from Daryl Gallagher. He said, and this is obviously in relation to Crystal Dynamics and the attrition rate that they're currently seeing. It's no small task to build a studio and reinvent a beloved franchise, ? Said Gallagher, speaking to VGC. In creating the initiative, we set out to leverage co-development partnerships to achieve our ambitions, and we're really excited about all the progress we're seeing in our relationship with Crystal Dynamics. So, I mean, that would suggest...
From other things I've read, that seems just a bit more of a front.
Well, that's the thing. No, that's the thing. It says, in creating the initiative, we set out to leverage co-development partnerships. Now, is that just a bit of damage limitation, do you think? Or was that always the case, do you think? Because obviously bringing Crystal Dynamics, even when they brought Crystal Dynamics in, people raised an eyebrow and thinking, right, why are they doing that then? Do you know what I mean? So even that, even at that time...
I mean, I think chat were kind of talking a bit about it, and I think Scott was kind of bringing it up a little bit earlier as well. But I read a Jez Corden article earlier today, or Windows Central article, whatever it is, and they basically went into a bit more detail of alleged, trusted insider, has to be anonymous, XYZ, about what's actually going on, just kind of a bit more like peeling away the veil a bit more. And apparently, it all comes down to the initiative's hierarchy structure, as from a company level. So rather than being rigid in that top down managers, sub managers, sub managers, and then grunt people, it's more flat in that you only have a few people up above, and it's flat hierarchy. Most people, no matter what your title is, can make equal contribution, equal suggestions, help drive the program in XYZ directions or whatever else. But apparently they were in this format, which was also apparently meant to be a trial on how of a new and different way you could run a game studio. Turns out there was basically two massive polar opposite trains of thought onto the direction of the game and which way it should go. And apparently there was a lot of senior people within the initiative working on this that were so frustrated at, they're throwing out these suggestions and their ideas and things that they're from their own experience. We need to be doing XYZ to make at least some progress in whatever area they're talking about or they're concerned with. And apparently it was so slow and such an arduous process to get things approved and to get things moving that a lot of people were moving en masse just due to also sheer frustration as well as butting heads. And it then led that as you mentioned a minute ago, that Crystal Dynamics have then been brought in, and that raised people's eyebrows as to why is this, why why is this happening? And then,
so Pucks, do you think that was always the original vision for the initiative? So in the statement, they're making it out like that was kind of the plan all along. We wanted to build a small team and then go and find a partner. Do you believe that? Do you think when they set out that
No,
was the
I don't.
idea, or do you think they originally wanted to create a 200 to 300 person studio in-house in the initiative?
I think it was always meant to be in-house. There's, as we kind of mentioned just before this little segment, I guess, Perfect Dark is not that big of an IP that demands massive multi-studio collaboration, because it's even if it's a big project, I don't think the IP itself is, I'll say, not deserving of it, but I don't think it's widely known or big enough to warrant that kind of investment into it, unless they're trying to do a massive reboot. But
it's funny you say that. So Perfect Dark.
Hit me.
Do you want to guess where it sits on the list of greatest games of all time?
Oh, no, don't tell me it's bloody top 10 or something. Seriously. No, hang on. Sorry, Scott, hang on. Hang on.
I like these little games. I love these little games.
Hang on. Can you qualify the list for us exactly? What is this list?
It's the top games by Metacritic score of all time. Sitting top of the Pops, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, rated 99.
Oh, don't tell me it's going to be like an 87 and it's going to sit like 15th or something on the list.
No, it can't be.
I'll tell you, it's a lot higher than 87, Pucks.
No. Hang on. So, hang on. What version are we talking?
So, no.
From when?
Just remember, I'm asking you where it sits on the list of greatest games of all time.
In position, right?
I'm not looking in 80s here. I'm looking at the top
90s.
However many games. There's nothing in this list that I'm looking at. That
is it
in the 80s.
It's within the top 25, is it?
Yeah, hold on. I think overall Metacritic game from memory, I'm pretty sure that the ones that are in the 90s, actually not that many. So it's got to be less than 50 games in with a score higher than 90, if not.
So, well, I mean, going down this list, I'm at 100 here, and that's Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, which is at the score of 94.
Bloody hell.
Wow.
I'll put you out your misery.
Yeah, go on.
Flap, it's currently rated the same as one of your favorite games. Red Dead 2 at a 97, making a joint 6th.
What? Is this the N64 version?
Of
N64?
All time. Yeah. If I don't think, I don't think people maybe realize how highly thought of the original. I don't agree. Personally,
but at the same time,
it's rated 97, putting it top joint 6th alongside RDR2, Grand Theft Auto 5, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Pucks joint with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
No, it's not.
Halo Combat Evolved. It's rated higher.
We were naive back in those days, Scott. We had nothing else.
It's rated higher than Half-Life.
Half-Life 2 is a 96. And this is a 97. So, but I think that goes to show how once upon a time, you got to remember, this was off the back of GoldenEye. GoldenEye won, GoldenEye was huge at the time, and this came after it. And so I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, more than 20 years have passed since then, which is why I was asking the question, has it aged with time? Due to the nostalgia factor, because of how highly rated it was back in the day.
But joking aside, though, we're still talking about a game which came out once on the N64, got re-released on the 360 in a very poorly received port, and then maybe there was a different version of it, whatever it's called, and then we'd never seen it again. Unlike Mario and Zelda and Sonic and all those kind of IPs, which have had multiple releases over the years to the point they're so astronomically big now. But I kind of still stand by my point. I don't think, it scored a 97 or 98, whatever it was, back in 98 or whenever it came out.
2000 it was.
2000. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know if it sits with me in terms of.
I agree. I agree entirely. It obviously doesn't have that same feeling as some of those franchises because, well, first of all, they are franchises. There's multiple games. Perfect Dark kind of sits by itself. But I do think that even though it was that long ago, I do think that IP carries some weight, especially considering it's from the N64, which obviously, despite its sales, had some.
You don't think it's a remnant of the fact that it's also because it was made by Rare back then with their Nintendo?
Yeah, I think it's probably an element of that as well, Pucks. I think I think a lot of people are excited just by the prospect of another Perfect Dark, which I think adds an element of pressure to it that, who knows, may have contributed to where we are today. Maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. Are you guys surprised as to how highly rated the original?
Oh yeah, well, I wasn't expecting it to be as high as 98 or whatever it was, 97. Yeah. That's mad. I think the other thing I was going to quickly bring up about that whole Crystal Dynamics thing as well, and why they're being brought in, because again, this same article mentioned about how, again, according to insider knowledge, quote unquote, that the bringing in of Crystal Dynamics is effectively starting a soft reboot of the whole project. Was some statements I'd seen, with the potential long-term plan to be that Crystal Dynamics become the main developer and then initiative almost get pushed aside. But that's the impression I get. I'm not saying that's what they've said explicitly, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, but as we've all said, I'm not a massive follower of the game, so I'll read news about it because I like that kind of. I like reading about the development of these types of titles in general. But the project itself and the IP, I'm not a massive lover of. So
no, fair
we have to see. I think. For me,
exactly. We'll just have to see.
To say about it.
We've only got another 7 years to wait.
In a while. Well, that's the thing. So, but they mentioned it potentially being soft reboot when Crystal Dynamics came on board. How much of a game was there even to reboot?
Wow, yeah, good question. There was a CG trailer.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If it was a small team of 50, how much of a game did they actually get ready? No doubt they had like playable prototypes and stuff, but I don't kind of get the when Final Fantasy VII Remake, that was essentially shifted from one studio to another and it essentially restarted development. I think the same's happened with Metroid Prime 4. I don't get the same sense that it's similar to those games. I just kind of get a sense of this game different. Wasn't very far along, and when Crystal Dynamics had come on board, it's then gone in a direction that was maybe different to the original vision. But I just can't see. There has to be something to being rebooted for you to say it's
the one thing
rebooted, if that makes sense.
I think the one thing for me, I mean, going by, according to this article again, when they say about how people are living en masse because there's a big butting of heads on the direction the game should go, it's almost as if to say, you could be talking about in-depth mechanics, but I don't think it could be that level. I think we're talking core genre, even.
The fundamentals.
Was it going to be kept as a first-person shooter, or was there another 50% of the studio that wanted it to be a 3D platformer or 3D over-shoulder shooter kind of thing, or something entirely different? But
I think it would have always, if you were doing Perfect Dark, but then how much did it being Perfect Dark influence the decision of these developers? Was it Perfect Dark from 2018 when the development studio did they create and go, right, this is the game? Or did the choice to go into Perfect Dark, which then I think limits what you can do, Pucks? Because I know you say, is it always going to be first person? Well, Perfect Dark's a first person game. Perfect Dark on the N64, Perfect Dark Zero, they're first person shooters. Obviously, there's no reason why you couldn't necessarily take Perfect Dark and make it third person, but if you're making a Perfect Dark game, you're making a first person shooter.
I mean, it sounds, I suppose from the top level, it probably sounds quite simple to think that a first person and a third person, why not have both kind of thing? But it's more than just it's more than just moving the camera and altering your control scheme on the fly, isn't it? It's the core experience that the developers want to deliver to the fan base, right? And that that's a big. It's a simple. Sorry, it's a what's the word? It's a deceptively simple question as to do we just put the camera here or here? And then have the player look at one perspective or another. But those two differences completely change the way the game feels, plays, how you build the game, like how you even structure the code and everything that's behind it completely changes. So
we've got some comments. Pucks, do you want to go through the comments just quickly?
Yeah, sure thing. Top on the list here from Stubbs, who says, BMG, or it's 2BMG, sorry. I have no affinity for Perfect Dark or hype. They should have worked on a new IP, considering the initiative was meant to be working on a new IP. I believe Phil told Daryl Gallagher, new IP, and then they go. BMG then says, put it in the pile with Scalebound and do something brand new.
I mean, Scalebound was playable at one point. It got further along than Perfect Dark seemingly was.
Another comment here from Darren, who says, it's just certain quarters of the media want to have a dig at Xbox yet again. Is that completely true, though?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I
I
think
don't think
Scott's
media
right.
is necessarily the fair. I think
it's an Xbox studio, but I don't think it's a dig at Xbox, is it? Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's the media. Like VGC were just reporting on it, but the doom and gloom commentary has come from social media, from the forums, from it's come from the community, not necessarily the media directly. So I think I know what Darren means, where the media are just reporting on something that's happening. They've not necessarily said it's gone completely tits up or anything. If you look at Jeff Grubb and Jez Corden's report and following that, they're actually thinking similar lines to us, that maybe it's been blown out of proportion a little bit. But it's the general discourse on social media in particular, where it's like Xbox are doomed, they can't manage their first parties.
No, but
the initiative are crap.
I think Xbox are to blame a little bit for hyping it so much without obviously actually having anything substantial as well. But
have they hyped it though, Flap?
Well, the quadruple A studios, and I think they have, to be honest, a bit. I don't know. Perhaps I'm wrong. But it feels like they did.
I agree with you only to the point where this was like a closing trailer, wasn't it? On one of their shows that they did. Like this CGI was the closing of the whole show, to the point of, this was the big guns, But
was it the Game Awards they revealed that trailer?
I can't remember.
I think it was actually. I think you're right.
Yeah, because they did Hellblade a year before Perfect Dark, and Hellblade again a year after. I think. I think it's maybe a little unfair to say they've hyped it, Flap, if I'm being perfectly honest, because the quadruple A thing was very much a recruiter thing. That was never said from anybody at Xbox or the studio or in marketing. It was kind of a recruitment phrase used. And that gets thrown at them quite a lot, which I think is a little unfair at times. But other than that, all they've done is released a trailer for a concept, and I don't necessarily think that they've been hyping it up. It's not like, you remember Deathloop. Christ, you couldn't go 2 minutes without seeing the Deathloop trailer.
Fair point.
That was shoved in your face. With this, they've shown one trailer. And I think the reason they showed that is because there was so much speculation around, what the initiative working on. If you remember, it pretty much leaked that they were working on Perfect Dark before they released that trailer anyway. So I think what that allowed them to do is get out there and just tell people what they're working on to stop speculation. But as we've seen recently with a lot of development studios, it maybe could have been used further as a recruitment tool to say, look, we're working on Perfect Dark. Come join us. Obviously, this was before they would partner with Crystal Dynamics, of course. So yeah, I kind of think saying they've hyped it is maybe a little unfair on the initiative and Xbox.
I guess so. I don't know. Like I say, there's been to be honest, if it's community generated, it feels like there's been a lot of hype around this particular studio and this particular game, and it just makes these sort of bad optics sort of sting even more, I guess, on some level. But
I think it's more the fact that they said the initiative was working on it as well at that point in time, didn't they? And you think, they're a big studio. It did all the Gears games. Well, not all of them, but you know what I mean. No, they didn't. No, I'm talking about something else.
The Coalition.
Yeah, that's the Coalition. I'm talking about something completely different. Ignore that fact.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The initiatives were built from the ground up. But I think the fact that Xbox created a new studio, that in itself brought excitement, because it was at the time when they had nothing. And if you remember, they announced it along this at the same time as they announced Playground, Ninja Theory, etc. So it was something new and exciting for Xbox, which we didn't have. So there was a lot of speculation around it. And I think that's why they got out and announced it when they did. Well, there's two reasons. They got out and announced it. I think we spoke about this on last week's show. It might be Sunday's show.
2018.
They needed to get it. Yeah, they needed to get out there and tell people that they were working on games, because they wanted to get ahead of the narrative that Xbox has no games. And then secondly, they kind of needed to end the speculation about what they're actually working on.
Absolutely right. Where did we get with the comments, Pucks?
Yep, a few more here. I'm conscious of time as well. So, Pyro M, if they need to soft reboot development, fair enough. I'd rather they do that. Sorry, I'd rather they do what they can to make a perfect Dark, not a perfect Dark Zero. BMG, we need a Superman game made by an Xbox studio.
I've never known anyone to be so nuts over Superman. I really haven't. But there we go.
He's the worst. It's the worst superhero out of all of them. Name a worse superhero.
Don't get him started. Don't get BMG started.
Please, genuinely, can anyone tell me a worse superhero than Superman? He's so bloody boring.
I mean, I find Ant-Man a bit boring as well, if I'm perfectly honest. But
yeah,
Ant-Man.
but you can go really small or really big. Superman's he's invincible, effectively. You know, like it's such a boring concept.
Well, unless you get a little green rock in his face, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. Wow, I can't wait. I can
BMG,
hear BMG's
sorry.
keyboard as we speak.
No, don't worry, he's already had the Sonic comments in already. I saw that comment earlier on BMG. Right. I was going to let it lie, but then Superman came up and
I've got one more comment, by the way. No one from Pyro. I do have one more comment.
You don't. I'm just putting another one in. Go on.
Oh. Okay, I'll read that one out first. BMG to Scott, who says FU2. Pyro says the Hitman titles demonstrate that Perfect Dark could work in third-person perspective. Well, Hitman wasn't first person, though, was it?
Yeah, but I think what he's saying, because it's kind of like essentially Perfect Dark's kind of like a spy espionage type game, that it kind of demonstrates.
Oh, sorry.
It could, you could do that style of game in third person, similar to Splinter Cell in a way. You know, you've got that third person stealth action game.
But do you
I think it absolutely could.
But by comparing it and potentially taking inspiration from things like that, does it not then become arguably a clone of those titles? And my point being, you'd have to put a massive spin on those formulas, wouldn't you, rather than just doing Hitman but with Perfect Dark skins, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you're making a Perfect Dark game, you've kind of got to go first person. It's a first person game. It will be like rebooting Halo as a third person game in some respects.
I've just stuck a poll up. Let's get this one sorted once and for all, because Tuka and Gulu's kind of on the side of Superman. So we'll get this one sorted, shall we?
Do we have to read it out as well? He goes, "What? Superman is the OG superhero."
Yeah. Okay, well, we are 5 minutes and 49 seconds away from the next state of play, so let's have a quick discussion around what we're expecting from Hogwarts Legacy. It's a 20-minute show, I believe. Obviously, PlayStation are showcasing it, but it is coming to Xbox, I believe. Is it coming to Switch? Do we know? I'm guessing it would.
I don't think so, because it's just next gen. It's just next gen platforms, isn't it?
Right. So, wow. So what are we expecting?
Well, I mean, I did see some chatter earlier. I think I saw some bits in chat as well about how this may be potentially PlayStation timed exclusive or something.
Okay, yeah.
I've not seen too much about that myself, but I'll say that I have heard. I've read some ramblings to that effect, but it was mainly in Twitter threads. There was no official link to any rumored sources or things like that. Well, I'm hoping for a good spattering of gameplay, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, it is actually listed for past gen consoles. Flap. Sorry to crap myself. Okay. Yeah, it is on the
Switch as well?
Hogwarts Legacy. Not Switch, but
Not
Xbox
Switch.
One, PS4, as well as Series S and X and PS5 and PC. I would highly doubt it's going to be in any way timed exclusive.
Oh, would you? Why is that?
Because it's already been announced for Xbox.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It would be unusual. Like, it's not like Wonder Woman that's been announced but no platforms.
Yeah.
I can maybe see something there, but this has already been announced. I think this is just kind of part of a marketing deal.
Yeah, deal
that Sony probably got with Warner Brothers.
I think I'll be more intrigued. I'm more intrigued to see gameplay than I imagine than I normally would be. Mainly because, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, it may have barely a few months ago, there was a lot of rumors about how this game was apparently in development hell for the longest time, to the point where it may have been pushed out into 2023. Do you remember this? And for them to then reaffirm shortly after that, a short while back, when they said, nope, it's definitely coming out in 2022, and it's got its own dedicated state of play to it. So I'm expecting big things here, if anything. This is meant to be, is it an MMO type game? Not a full MMO, but it's a big multiplayer game, isn't it?
I don't think it's multiplayer at all, Pucks.
Is it not?
I think it's kind of like a open world action RPG.
Yeah, I
type-
thought it was
type
open
game.
okay.
world, but what would do we not know that much about it? Do you know that for sure, Scott, or is that
Yeah, I mean
Right.
it's been announced as that. We've
Okay.
this will be the first time we've seen actual gameplay of it, where we'll
Hmm.
get an idea of. I think all we've had so far is the CG announcement trailer.
Mhm.
But I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, to be perfectly honest. But from what I remember, it's set before the Harry Potter books,
Mhm.
so it's kind of historic. And yeah, I believe it's single player. It may have co-op, I guess, but like a single player, mainly action RPG.
do we have a release date yet, or do we think we might get that out of today's showcase?
Oh, it'd be interesting to see if we get that today, because all they've said is
Yeah.
they're confirming it for later this year. So, I mean,
Right.
this seems like the perfect time for it, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think if there's going to be a date released, it would be when it's on a state of play or something like that. It will probably be the very
Yeah.
last screen they flash up, I should think. Come in
Yeah.
November or whatever. Do you think it might be a holiday game or a fall game?
Holiday, I think.
Yeah, holiday kind of makes sense, especially with the IP. I imagine
Yeah,
there'll be maybe a lot of
It's
people
quite
who
Christmassy, isn't it? So we are 2
Yeah.
minutes and 15 away. I am going to just turn on the music or the sound. Chat, let us know if the audio levels are okay. We're going to need your guidance on this one, chat. If you can let us know when it starts, whether you need us to turn it the volume up and down, so you can obviously hear us. But I'm guessing we're going to be watching. Really, there's not going to be too much talking over it. But I'm quite
I'm sure there's
excited
some
by it.
discussion near the end. So
Yeah, I've played a few Harry Potter games. There's one on the 360. I've done the Lego Harry Potters. There's quite a few Harry Potter games around. There's one on the mobile phone and stuff. So I actually quite like the Harry Potter universe.
Did you play the mobile one as well then?
Mm.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Was that the Niantic game?
The what?
Like
Sorry.
the Pokemon Go style Harry
Oh.
Potter game.
Oh no,
The game
no,
made
sorry.
by Niantic,
Oh yes,
yeah.
no. I did download that, but I never actually really got into it. So no, not that one.
It's
That's
already
cancelled
been-
now, isn't it? That's been binned.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
already been.
It's,
Oh,
it's
wow.
been shut down. Yeah.
Been and gone. Wow. Right, we got.
Yeah, I don't have any real affiliation with Harry Potter, to be honest. My partner loves it. I've seen the movies, but only because she's
Pushed you to.
made me watch them. I have been to Harry Potter World though. I don't know if either of you guys.
Yeah,
have
I've
been
done
to
that
Harry Potter
twice.
World.
Yeah, done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think Harry
Which-
Potter World is fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, even as someone who's not a fan of the series, I still found that fantastic.
Yeah.
The bit at the end, Flap, when you see the model of Hogwarts, like
Yes.
the big
Oh, yeah.
model, even to me, that was like when I walked in, I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just to clarify, you say Harry Potter World. You're not talking. You're talking about the American theme
No,
park?
no, no.
No, it's just outside London, isn't it?
Yeah.
What, oh, the studios, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, I've been to those. Yeah.
I think it's called Harry Potter World.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. Yeah.
So I've personally just known it as Harry Potter Studios. I thought they were two different things, but my mistake if that's the case.
Here we go. 9 seconds left.
BMG just said, I got banned from Harry Potter World for kicking a wizard.
Like you do.
I mean, I hope he deserved it, BMG.
Yeah. He ain't much of a wizard if he could take a kick in, is he? I do like their presentation with this. It is top notch, isn't it?
Yeah. And if anything, again, 20 minutes. You know, if you don't like it, then it's 20 minutes of your time.
Exactly.
No harm done.
Lumos.
PS5.
What do you think you're doing here, humans?
Welcome to Hogwarts Legacy. You're a new student at the famed School of Witchcraft and Wizardry with a unique ability to manipulate powerful ancient magic hidden in the wizarding world. You'll need to uncover what's behind the return of this forgotten magic and who is seeking to harness it to destroy wizard kind, as you may be the one that decides the fate of the entire wizarding world.
Graphically, this looks very
But
impressive.
before you can study
Yeah, look at
magic
that.
and begin to solve these mysteries, you must create the witch or wizard you want to be. When you arrive at Hogwarts, you will be sorted into one of the 4 Hogwarts houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin. After you settle into your dormitory, you will meet up with your housemates in the common room. You will then need to attend classes, and you do have some catching up to do, as you are starting Hogwarts late as a 5th year.
So you are the new student.
You'll begin your studies attending Charms, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Herbology, and Potions classes, to name a few.
Ah, hello, class. Please welcome the newest rose in our garden.
Shall we begin? Welcome to Year 5 of Charms. Now, this will be a crucial year in your education on the art of charm work, but I am confident that we will take hold with the passion and rigor requisite of such a challenge.
The best way to practice is by dueling. We'll start with you two.
Time for a proper Hogwarts welcome.
You may begin.
Not bad for a beginner.
Potions is one of the most challenging and hazardous subjects taught at this school.
Here, you'll meet your professors and learn to cast spells, grow magical plants, brew potions, and more. In between classes, you'll be able to explore the castle famous for its secrets, enchantments, and mysteries.
It looks pretty beautiful, doesn't it? Wow, look at that.
You'll discover
yeah,
dungeons and
it's-
secret passageways.
Pretty stunning, actually, isn't it? I mean, the gameplay is
As well
doing
as
absolutely
challenging
nothing for
puzzles
us.
that will
I
require
don't know, I haven't
magical
seen an
skill
awful
and
lot,
a
but
clever mind to solve.
I'm not really into the whole cooking.
You may even
thing.
find yourself in iconic locations you've never been able to explore before. It's the late 1800s, so while the common rooms and classes may be familiar, most of your professors will not be. However, you may recognize a few faces.
All in good fun. Once Sir Patrick lets me join the Headless Hunt, I'll be right there with them. This offering is sure to win them over.
Don't forget why I'm here, sir.
You'll come to know this eclectic group of talented witches and wizards in class and while completing side assignments that are part of a special curriculum. Ones designed to help you catch up with the other 5th years at your own speed.
Lumos.
Opportunities for adventure abound in the area surrounding Hogwarts. The magical abilities you learn to master through your schoolwork will soon become tested as you unravel a dangerous mystery by working alongside the accomplished and yet enigmatic Professor Fig to try and discover if the rumors of a mounting goblin rebellion hold any weight, and if the safety of Hogwarts lies in the balance.
I have. Opinions differ as to how great a threat he really is.
Ranrock's loyalists are capable of so much more than people realize.
The wizarding world of this era is
This
fraught with
genuinely might
dangers.
be one of the prettiest
Creatures
games I think I've
corrupted
ever
by a
seen
magical
actually looked at
force,
it. Like,
powerful
especially
goblins,
the diversity
sinister
in the
witches and
sort of
wizards,
environments
all
that
willing
they've
to
shown off so
fight,
far.
even kill, to achieve their own goals.
The general lighting as well is
In
absolutely
fact, there's
phenomenal.
an uneasy alliance between the goblins and dark wizards.
This is the bit that I'm a little unsure about, though, is the combat side of things. Are you just going to be tapping X constantly just that people are will how
I just watched a student
in
take
depth
down
will
your
the combat
distraction.
actually be?
Who is this child? Are you not telling me?
But perhaps you shouldn't involve yourself with that just yet.
Let's go.
Wow.
Enemies possess unique defensive and offensive abilities, including blasting curses, stunning spells, enchanted weaponry, and more. While some may attack directly, others might enchant and incapacitate you. Mastery of the shield charm allows you to deflect ranged spells and direct weapon strikes.
Defender! Apollo!
Counterattack with powerful stunning charms, allowing you to follow up with extended spell combinations. Students who become particularly adept at spellcasting will find many ways to exploit their enemy's weakness. Slam
This
with
is now
Descendo.
surprisingly doing it for me a bit. I don't know how you
Roast
guys
with
are feeling.
Incendio.
I quite like the look of it, to be honest.
I'm pretty stuck at it.
You
Yeah, I
can
think
even
it's
use the
fantastic.
mysterious, powerful magic your professors do not understand to obliterate your strongest foes.
The fact there's so many different locales as well just looks incredible.
Mixing and
Yeah,
matching
I was
dozens
initially
of spells will
like a
let
little
you
concerned
define
about the
your
combat, but what they just showed there look pretty good.
On your path to become
It looks like it's a lot more than just spamming the X button, isn't it?
Yeah, the animations are pretty nice.
Perhaps you'd be good enough to blast each other to pieces on your own time.
In addition to classes and spells, you'll have access to a deep set of upgrades, talents, and skills to aid your progression as a wizard. Complete challenges throughout the world to earn experience. Level up your abilities by choosing talents to upgrade your spells, plants, and potions to increase their power. Decide which talents best fit your playstyle to allow you to focus on your favorite types of magic. You can also loot, buy, or craft your own magical gear that will increase your offensive and defensive capabilities in combat. Gear can be upgraded and specialized to allow for greater abilities for your chosen playstyle.
Use a strong, even motion when cutting your ingredients.
Spells are not the only tools at your disposal in combat. As you hone your wand skills, you can continue to further your magical education at Hogwarts, progressing your development as a witch or wizard. Brew potions that can increase your power when you need a boost. Grow and deploy magical plants to mob the battlefield and keep your enemies at bay. You can even unleash deadly mandrake seedlings to incapacitate unsuspecting
There's so many
enemies.
environments, isn't there? Cracky.
Yeah.
In Beasts class, you will learn about a variety of magical beasts you might encounter, both at school and as you explore the world surrounding the castle and its grounds.
The goal of today
Is this
to remind
is
the
this
owner
true open world? Do
how
you
to
think?
maneuver on a broomstick safely.
It looks it. I mean,
does, doesn't
Learning
it?
and mastering broom flight is highly recommended so that you may travel around the world more quickly.
I was just about to say that I think maybe open zone, but they've literally just corrected me there.
Some abilities may be taught to you by students who become your friends. As you develop relationships with these schoolmates, they can accompany you on your journey as your companions. And over time, you'll learn their stories.
regardless of whether you like this game or not, this is just genuinely a really good presentation for it.
Yeah, it is.
Like if a game was if a game's presented like this, is how a game should be presented in my opinion.
Loves magical beasts.
Yeah, lots of positive comments as well in the chat. People are liking
Unafraid
it.
of detention or breaking the rules
Sneaking in the restricted section again.
is Sebastian Sallow, a charismatic Slytherin
We've been over this, boy. Figs cannot reverse a curse.
with a troubling family secret.
Nothing can. The sooner you accept that reality, the better.
You'll meet these
Yeah,
students and more
BMG just
as you
mentioned that he
explore
hopes there's
common
a
rooms,
good,
hallways
or
between
I guess
classes
a
and
good
regular
bad,
gathering
good
areas.
side, bad side, and
Consequences.
reactions. A little bit Fable. Like, do you think you'll be able to be an evil wizard?
Well, it depends what class you're in. If you're in Slytherin, then yeah, probably. Because it did say that they sort you
One of
into
the most
a
remarkable
house,
secrets
didn't it?
of Hogwarts is known as the Room of Requirement. You're introduced to this space that seems to sense what you need and then provides it for you.
I am getting excited for
Since
this.
you need to catch up to your peers, the room provides space for you to sow and harvest plants, brew potions, and upgrade your gear.
Oh, 24 minutes. That's interesting.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Did you notice that?
you know what's coming, don't you?
Yeah.
Flav?
Your own
Yeah.
menagerie of magical beasts.
You can buy wizarding tokens to spend on getting that time down. I can see it coming.
To reflect your personality
I'm
and
genuinely
magical
surprised that they
specialties.
included that in this because they surely would have known that people would think that.
That's gonna raise some controversy.
Not everything you need on your journey is available at Hogwarts. You'll want to visit the nearby wizarding village of Hogsmeade, where loads of shops and vendors can provide you with the supplies you require.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
From potion ingredients and recipes, to seeds for magical plants, to all sorts of gear.
I kind of get the sense that this game
But
is
Hogsmeade also
massive.
has its dangerous
Yeah,
side.
it looks huge,
A
doesn't
band
it?
of dark
Huge,
witches and
yeah.
wizards, emboldened by the turmoil of the times, wander the village outskirts. You must avoid them or defeat
Yeah,
them.
I don't think there'll be NFTs in this.
As you explore,
I
you'll
don't think
find
so.
the world surrounding Hogwarts is alive with activity, wonders, and areas of unusual interest. As the school year progresses, dynamic seasons and
Oh, wow.
climates will fill the sky with
That's
lightning
really cool.
or sunshine, or coat the ground with snow or rain. Unique wizarding hamlets pepper the countryside, each with vendors and residents who have stories to tell, and missions with which they could use your assistance. Be on the lookout for enchanting magical puzzles that may very well have been designed by Merlin himself when he was a student at Hogwarts. Magical beasts roam the lands outside the castle walls. Some have been corrupted by a mysterious dark magic, while others are at risk of poachers and their traps. If you're feeling benevolent, you can rescue them and restore them to health in the Room of Requirement. But there are dangers beyond your understanding in the world as well. Dungeons and vaults hold perilous threats and also untold rewards.
Wow.
Be careful where you choose to explore, as it may lead you down a darker path.
Oh,
Master spells. Befriend new allies.
This is
Journey
leading
across a
down a darker
landscape
path.
never
I guess
seen
that kind of
before.
confirms you can
Uncover
be
ancient
a little bit
secrets,
naughty.
Combat mystical threats. Learn long-forgotten mysteries. Become the witch or wizard you want to be as you leave your unique mark on the wizarding world. Here, in Hogwarts Legacy.
Wow. I was not expecting that. Holiday.
Me neither, man.
Wow.
That was your first extended look at Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, PS4 as well. Wow.
Now let's hear from the real wizards and witches behind the game.
The attention to detail and the passion and the love for this brand that the team has is astonishing.
We can probably talk
team
over
is
this bit,
so
do you think,
excited.
guys?
I think
Maybe
so.
just
I think
Yeah.
speak down about- Obviously, if you're interested in hearing more from the developers,
This is
maybe
the
check
game
this out
that they've
after
dreamed of
the
for
show. I think that was the main bulk of it, wasn't it?
So, wow. What do we make? What do we make of it?
I was getting more and more and more impressed the more I was watching it.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because it looked like those first views of the castle, going like when he's walking down the stairs and just seeing that inside environment. It's like, oh wow, look at the detail. And it's going outside, and it's going left and right, and somewhere else, and then it's going to somewhere entirely different outside the castle. Oh man.
It looks beautiful, and like I say, it said at the beginning that it was running on a PS5 dev kit, but you'd hope that the retail version's going to come close to that, if not be absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
And then marrying that with
Wow, I was a little bit worried about seeing that countdown timer though. I just hope they don't spoil it by having, in-game microtransactions to reduce the time of of things happening. BMG mentioned about NFTs. I don't think it's going to have any NFTs or anything. No, it's not that.
I mean, I wouldn't be
works.
surprised if Harry Potter NFTs do exist at some point. Maybe not necessarily.
The only point to have NFTs would be in a multiplayer game, so you can show them off. Surely, do you know what I mean? As far as I'm aware, this isn't multiplayer on any level. They've not mentioned that, have they?
I think most of the gaming community, like devs as well, almost despise the whole concept of NFTs, or at least their current implementations. So.
And we just felt like we had to answer those.
But
that genuinely surprised us.
Yeah,
really didn't expect that. To be honest, I didn't have any real expectation going into that, but I thought it was a bloody fantastic presentation.
So I mean, you had reservations around the combat. What's changed your mind?
Well, I guess that's the good thing about the presentation. They had a part of the presentation that was solely focused on the combat, and they showed you it's got rolling, parrying. What other games maybe not have that? But just the way that you could combine different spells, potions. It actually looked like the combat could be quite diverse depending on in what direction you want to go. And just like the animations just were really cool. Just the characters' movement as they did certain things.
Fans of the series will know that ancient magic.
Yeah.
Has been around.
And like I say, just a really good. If any game developer watches this, like,
yes.
I genuinely think that's how. If you want to present your game, that is how you present your game.
This is how we do it. Yeah, absolutely.
That was solid 15 minutes of pretty much pure gameplay. It went through what the game is, how it works, how it plays. I think that's a perfect presentation for any game.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I was mostly excited for this anyway, but it sounds like you're kind of converted, Scott. So it's obviously done it's done its task.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just the vastness of the world, just how good it bloody looks. Like I say, the combat, the bit that doesn't really do it for me, but this is just in general is kind of like the crafting element. I'm not too big on crafting, so the bit where it was you're making your own potions and spells, that bit doesn't do an awful lot for me, but that wouldn't in general. But the rest of it looked awesome.
It looks like it's got quite some in-depth RPG elements to it, doesn't it? Kind of intricate upgrades.
Well, there's the concept of leveling up as well, isn't there, which is quite an interesting one.
Yeah, I really like that in games, particularly when they get the balance right. I love that.
One thing I did like as well, which I don't think you may not have spotted, when they mentioned about the those animals that you could help uncorrupt, whatever it was, and then there's the image of him kind of holding like a cage thing. I'm pretty sure that's a nod to the Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Because obviously the idea that he has a load of animals in his little bag or whatever it is he carries with him, I can't help but feel that is a reference to that.
Well, they've got lots of lore to draw upon, haven't they? So.
Oh yeah. And what did you think about the because as soon as I think you just said, I reckon it's open world, in my mind I thought this is looking more open zone, and then straight away they goes travel around this vast open world on your broomstick or your griffin at any time. It's like, this is fantastic, right?
Yeah, do you think you could literally go anywhere?
Wow.
Do you like this bit here where he's on the Pegasus
Good question.
thing? Do you reckon you could literally fly from Hogwarts to there, or do you reckon that it's kind of like you go to... It is open world, but you're kind of in fixed zones, as you say.
I don't know, the way the way they're describing it, it sounds as if it is you can get on a griffin and just clear off. So I imagine in a way, because the landscapes between, it looks like there's a lot of vastness and emptiness potentially between locations, so it wouldn't surprise me if they say it's open world, but really you're just disguising loading zones between emptiness in the middle.
If it is open world, I hope they do it right, and it's not just they don't go down the Ubisoft route of doing open world.
Markers everywhere, you mean?
Yeah. Fetch quests, do this 14 times, and then you'll get some trinket that progresses you in the story. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I'd imagine obviously there's that hand-holding tutorial at the beginning, but I'd like to think you'll reach a very early point when they say, "All right, yeah, now you can. The world's open to you now." If you get what I mean. Rather than you have to unlock the world as you go, and it's like, oh, it's not really open world at that point, is it? Like it is, but it isn't, because you can't just go anywhere whenever. You have to then complete 10 hours worth of story first, potentially. But fingers crossed that's not the case.
Wow, well, we got it right. Holiday 2022, so that's kind of cool. We haven't got years to wait for it, thankfully. And I am much more excited now than I was before, and I was quite excited before, if I'm honest. So that's really cool.
I wasn't super excited originally, only because even though they said all the original articles and news about this game saying it's vast open world Harry Potter, and I think especially I can't remember what it was specifically now, but the games that coming out at that time were like open world ones in particular were in such a kind of a state of repetition, nothing new, nothing innovative or whatever else. To the point it was like, oh yeah, Harry Potter open world, like I'll believe how good it looks when I see it, kind of thing. And then now that I've seen this, it's wow. Like graphically, it looks phenomenal. Gameplay wise, I was a bit skeptical at first, similar to what Scott was saying about the combat, because is it just an X spammer? But it just looks nice, and then actually no, it looks like it's a lot more in depth than that.
Yeah,
the leveling system, the room and kind of village building crafting system they look like they had on show. The timer is worrying, as you mentioned. It did make me think, are they going to do like an Assassin's Creed Ubisoft thing where you buy, was it Helix credits? They call it in Assassin's Creed, but whatever the equivalent would be for this, like, you need to get this many gems to change your 24 minutes to to 10 seconds or something. But fingers crossed that's not the case, but I can see that happening. But overall, I'm very impressed.
Don't Portkey Games do mobile games?
I've honestly never heard of them, to be honest.
I think Portkey do the Harry Potter game that I was on about. And it's a mobile game, and that's a little bit worrying if that's the case, and why we might have seen
Magical
that timer.
Awakened.
Yeah, but
yes, Portkey Games from Warner Brothers Games is the games label dedicated to creating new Wizarding World mobile and video game experiences.
There we go.
So it's because it's Avalanche that's creating the game, isn't it?
Yes.
And Avalanche aren't owned by. They're not a WB studio as far as I'm aware.
I'm on the Portkey Games website, and they basically have only made Harry Potter. So they've done Harry Potter Magic Awakened, Hogwarts Mystery, obviously Hogwarts Legacy, Harry Potter Wizards Unite, which is the in collaboration with Niantic, I believe, that got shut down.
Okay.
And they've done Harry Potter Puzzles and Spells.
That's
any
the one.
of those are the ones?
Yeah, Puzzles and Spells. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So interesting that there's a mobile studio involved, but they're obviously the ones that are in charge of the Harry Potter franchise side of things, and interesting they're involved in a console game, and I just hope they don't bring some of the mobile gaming mentality to the console, because I personally don't think it works. That the whole point with mobile is you can play it on the move, so it's all very well planting a seed and having to wait 25 minutes real time for it to do something, grow or whatever, because if you're on your commute on the train or whatever, by the time you get to work, it's done. But on a console, that doesn't work. You're just sat on your sofa. It just doesn't translate at all, does it? Yeah. So, yeah. Well, we'll see how it pans out on that aspect. And like I say, I just hope they get the open world side of things right. That's quite a big statement. And again, I know we've spoken about Elden Ring a lot. I think Elden Ring as an open world concept does lots of things right, and if it is closed off with zones, it's because you have to go through a boss to get to the next zone and stuff. But other than that, it is literally open world. You can just go and do whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. But
I was actually a little bit worried for Warner Brothers and Avalanche for this, to be honest, because it's probably fair to say there's not an awful lot of positivity towards Harry Potter. Not to get too much into it, but obviously, let's just say J.K. Rowling isn't the most popular woman in the world these days. That's putting it extremely politely. Fuck her, I guess we should probably say. But I think that has led to people having a very weird relationship with Harry Potter as a franchise, and including this game, because they don't want to be seen as supporting her, because she'll profit from this, no doubt. And I think had this come out and not been so good, I think it, they would have just doubled up on the negativity towards it. So I'm actually quite pleased for the developers, who obviously have no involvement in her antics, that this has looked so good. And just scanning through Twitter and things like that, the overall sentiment does seem to be really positive. Like a lot of people do seem
Yeah.
to really like the look of what they saw, which is good.
I had the video open myself as well, and I could see the live chat on the PlayStation stream, and so many people were putting down game of the year, game of the year, game of the year, like immediately. It's just I don't know if it's quite that level yet. Maybe it's too early to say, given the success of Elden Ring.
I was going to say, I think it's got a fight on its hands. I don't think it's going to come close, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'd also say it's going to find its hands probably still to release this year. The fact that they still said holiday, I wouldn't be putting any money on that actually coming out this year. There's still a lot of time for that to be to be pushed. But yeah, really good first real showing for that game.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. I think that's going to round up the show for the evening. Chat, thank you very much for being here. Just to round off the poll, which Batman, Superman or Spider-Man? I'm afraid Batman came top, probably no surprise, 53%. Superman was second, 38%, and Spider-Man 7%, which doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest. It is really Batman versus Superman, isn't it? But excellent. Well, thank you very much. It's not been a fantastically detailed gaming news week, shall we say. So we've picked out the ones that we can. Doesn't light everyone's fire. I get that. I know people are getting bored with Elden Ring, particularly if you're not playing Elden Ring. I think if you are playing Elden Ring, then you get very much involved. But game dropping, Tunic dropping straight into Game Pass was quite a thing. And like you say, perhaps Perfect Dark has been a little bit blown out of proportion. We're yet to see how that's gonna land. Is Perfect Dark the right IP? Well, it's the one they've gone with, so we'll have to see in the long run. But GPG Crew, thank you very much for being here. Hopefully we'll have all four of us back next time. I think the next show will be next Thursday. Hope you had a great time. Chat, thank you for being here. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons if you haven't done so already. Please help us spread the word. And we'll see you on the next one. So have a good week of gaming, and we'll see you then. See you later.
Take care.
Bye.